Hey, I'm Allison from Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm a literacy specialist, and in this video, I'm going to explain 5 things to look for when you're choosing technology tools for K-2 students, and I'm going to show you something that I really highly recommend for tech in K-2. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do that now, and then also hit the little bell so that you're notified every time I post a brand new video about teaching literacy in K-2. All right, let's talk tech. At the time that I'm recording this, it was only a couple of years ago that schools went remote due to the pandemic, and there was lots and lots of tech use, and it was out of necessity, even for our little kindergartners or preschoolers. I know one of my best friend's kiddos was in preschool at the time, and they were hopping on Zoom. It was just a lot of technology, and so coming off of all of this, I feel like some of the good things about technology or tools that teachers discovered have remained. But then also a lot of teachers just got over-teched, and so they kind of went back to what they were doing in the classroom before all this technology was used during the pandemic. So it's kind of been up and down. And for me, I personally feel like I like to have a balance. I do feel like technology can be really helpful, and in this video, I'm going to explain what you should look for and what you should avoid. At the same time, especially in K-2, there is research that physical writing and all of these fine motor tasks, this stuff is important. Our brains actually process text on the paper differently than it does a digital text. So I really like to kind of strike a balance and do lots of paper and pencil stuff in K-2. I'm curious where your school is at as far as technology goes. Do you feel like you all are super ahead and doing all of the tech tools? Do you feel like it's too much? Do you feel like you want to implement more? Curious to hear in the comments where your school is at as far as tech and devices. Are you one-to-one? I know schools really just vary. So all of that said, let's dive into what to look for when you are choosing tools for your students. Like I said, I don't like to do tech all day, every day. So when I am choosing a tool, I'm very selective. And the first thing that I look for is something that's easy to set up for students. Often I'm using tech tools as an independent activity. So I'm occupied with a small group, and I want it to be something that they can get into and hopefully not get out of very easily. So something that's easy to set up, both for me, if I'm getting them logged in or, if they're logging in, but also for the kids. So ease of use for sure. You want technology to be an addition to your classroom, a positive addition, and not something that just causes a lot of stress or takes up a lot of time, because those instructional minutes are so precious. So easy setup. The second thing is that I use technology to do things, and I feel like this is important, that I, with paper and pencil or myself as a teacher, could not. And one of those things is to differentiate or personalize learning. We all know that differentiated instruction is important, it's valuable, but the reality is that class sizes seem to keep getting bigger, and it's hard to do that with limited time. So like I said, I want to use tech to enhance and do things that I can't do without it. And if I can assign kids different, for example, boom cards, which is the tool that I'm going to show you in a little bit, or if I have a program or an app that will place them based upon a little assessment, whatever I can do to personalize learning, I think tech is a great tool for doing that, because it almost you can't replace a teacher, right? Technology cannot replace us as teachers, but it almost clones me, right? So they can be, I can be with a group of students, and then they're still learning on their own as if they had a teacher right next to them, and it's personalized. So I look for stuff that allows me to differentiate and personalize learning for my kids. The third thing that I look for is something that gives students feedback. Now, when they're doing centers or independent activities on their own, that is great. That's wonderful, but sometimes they're practicing incorrectly. And because I'm with a small group, there's not always a way for me to go over and correct their work, depending on what kind of activity it is. But with technology, you can. Again, I don't use tech for all of my centers by any means, but if you've got a technology tool like the one I'm gonna, show you in a moment, that can tell the kids when they get something wrong or right, that is powerful. Explicit instruction, which is part of the science of reading and just effective teaching in general, it involves feedback. So if you can, again, kind of clone yourself and have something else giving your kids feedback, that can be really powerful in their learning. So giving students feedback was number 3. Number 4 is just appealing to students. I want technology to feel game-like. I still want them to enjoy their paper and pencil tasks and like the hands-on materials, but I do want it to be something that feels really fun to them, because then it just feels like they're playing a game and not even learning, and they're motivated to stay engaged with it. So appealing to students. The 5th and last thing I want to tell you before we go into looking at what I suggest for K2 is something that saves you time. You are busy as a teacher, you're not getting any less busy, and so you need something where maybe, you take like a little bit of time at the onset, like at the beginning, to set it up, but after that, it should save you time. It should do things for you. It should not be just more added to your plate. So that is also something that I look for. Okay, all of those 5 things said, I'm going to switch my video and actually show you a tool that I highly recommend. It's Boom Cards. You can use them beyond K2, but especially for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, they're just so easy to set up. You can give kids a link. They can have their own logins if you prefer, depending on what kind of account you have. You can use it for free, by the way, too. But you can give your kids, their own accounts if you want to log in and really differentiate, give them different, phonics skills, for example, with my phonics set to work on. But it's really easy to set up. So let's take a look at what is involved in Boom Cards. Okay, so here we are inside one of my Boom Phonics decks. This particular deck is working on the pattern I, G, and H. And I'm not going to click it, but there is audio here that actually does some instruction. So it's kind of like reviewing, teaching kids about IGH. And then this card is kind of the introduction to set them up. And then after that, they're doing different activities. So let's see if you can hear the audio in this. So it's just asking them to identify the word that has the long I sound spelled IGH. So they're just starting to identify it in different words. We're going to skip a couple here. There's different activities. So like this one is asking them to find the word fight. So they have to decode and read, based on this picture, it'll tell them that the word is fight. So the audio is really nice. Again, you're not worried about like them practicing incorrectly because it's telling them exactly what to do, and it'll tell them if they did something wrong. So like, let me submit this here. That's not correct. And it will tell them, it'll give them feedback. And of course, this is just one deck. I have a ton of different ones, and you can have your kids working on different phonics skills very easily because you can assign them different decks. So love Boom Cards. Boom Cards definitely cover these 5 aspects that I mentioned that I look for, so I love them. I have lots of sets available for phonics, for grammar. I'll include some links in the caption so you can check those out. And I also want to mention Boom Cards can be used in a variety of different ways. Small group and centers, obviously, that's great for them because, like the kids can work on different skills and they're getting feedback without you being there, so that's great. If you have parents that are asking for homework or extra practice, you can, make a Boom card set available for them to practice with, and it doesn't put any more work on you, right? Because you just grab the link and you're done. Maybe you have some kids that really need to practice specific skills that you've moved on from with the rest of the class. Have them do Boom Cards. Maybe you have kids that are more advanced, so you can have that teach them more advanced skills. And then, sometimes it's also fun just to have it up on the interactive board. Like at the end of the day, I like to do a little game or something like that, have the kids participating. So there's so many ways to incorporate Boom Cards, and I absolutely love them for K2. Again, if you want to learn more about Boom and what decks I have available for kids to play, look in the caption for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.